The first time I died, the academy bell rang inside my skull. When I opened my eyes 12 minutes earlier, my strength had risen from 7 to 9. That was how I learned my useless class did not save places. It saved me. That morning, 600 students had stood around the awakening stone while families watched from the stands. A crystal board above the arena showed every name, class, and rank. Rare classes earned cheers. When my name was called, Instructor Grant stopped me before I touched the stone. "The Academy has corrected an early placement," he announced. "Mason held the final badge for tomorrow's beginner raid. His preliminary strength was the lowest in the year, so the badge will pass to Felix." Felix walked onto the platform and took it from Grant. I had not awakened. I had not received my legal practical test. Academy law placed both before squad selection. The board changed my status from fighter candidate to porter while 600 students watched. "Why wait for his class?" Felix asked. "We already know he can carry bags." The crowd laughed. Only then did Grant let me touch the stone. He placed one hand on it and read the result twice. "Mason, class, keeper of 1 point." Silence lasted for 2 heartbeats. Felix laughed so loudly that 3 people near him joined in before they knew why. 1 point, he asked. "A common scout can place 50 map marks. Did the system run out of ink? The stands erupted." The useless class had given Grant an excuse for a decision he had already made. Grant lifted his hand, but he was smiling too. "No attribute increase, no attack or defense. Its only recorded function is to mark one location. My result appeared on the crystal board. It announced Strength 7, Agility 8, Endurance 6, Mana 4, no combat skills, and an overall rank of 600 out of 600. My name hung at the bottom of the board like a dead insect stuck to clean glass. I looked at Grant. Academy law gives every awakened student 1 practical test before final classification. A practical test requires a practical skill. The law does not say that. Grant leaned closer. His voice stayed quiet, but the sound crystal carried every word across the arena. "You entered this academy with a public scholarship. That scholarship requires a useful class. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." There it was. Not an evaluation. A decision. Felix stood in the first row with my red raid badge. He was ranked 2nd. His family paid him only while he remained in the elite squad. "Felix will keep the position," Grant said. "Mason will remain on maintenance duty." The transfer became permanent. My monthly support fell from 12 gold coins to 1. My meal allowance dropped from 3 meals a day to 1. My room in the East dormitory was removed from my record. Felix pinned my badge beside his own. "Do not worry," he said. "You can still mark the place where we leave our bags." I did not answer him. A man who had just won usually kept talking until he found a way to lose. I picked up the grey maintenance coat Grant placed at my feet. It smelled of oil, dust, and a previous owner who had fought soap and won. As I turned away, I noticed one person who was not laughing. Cora stood with the time faculty. She had dark hair, a blue coat, and a silver clock at her belt. She watched the awakening stone. For a moment, the light inside the stone moved backward. Then it went dark. "Grant sent me to clean the old training wing. I carried broken shields while the others received weapons." By sunset, Felix's picture was on the public notice board beneath the words "Future Shield of the Academy." He was a fire mage. That shield was going to burn a surprising number of people. That evening, I reached my new room beneath the west stairwell. It held 1 bed, 1 chair, and a roof leak with excellent aim. I owned 3 copper coins and a class that could help me find my own chair. I closed the door. The silver clock on the wall stopped. Water stopped above the bucket. 1 drop hung in the air. A woman appeared beside my bed. She wore a white robe threaded with dim stars. Her hair floated as if she stood under water. She moved away from the bucket and faced me. Even a goddess respected dirty water. "Mason," she said, "I am Astra. I place the first anchor of your class." A calm voice announced the hidden path of my class. Its evolutions were Immortal Player, Lord of Return, and Keeper of the Timeline. Those names sound more useful than Maintenance Worker, I said. They are also more dangerous. Astra touched the bedpost. A pale ring sank into it. The voice said my single save point had been established at 8:48 at night. What does it save? I asked. You. That answer is too short. You have a short class. Astra pointed to the ring. If you die, the world will return to this moment. Your body will return. Your memories, attributes, and learned skills will remain with your soul. Objects will not, money will not. Only one point may exist. If you create another, this one will be erased forever. So my combat skill requires me to lose a fight. Completely. Nobody tested the death condition. People who discover it rarely submit a report. I asked what a return would cost. Everything leaves a mark. The clock started. The drop hit the bucket. Astra vanished. Someone knocked on my door. Felix stood outside with a brass key.
Grant found one last job for you. Training Hall 7 still has copper control core inside. Bring it to the arena before final inspection at 10. Why give the order through you?
Because he is busy preparing my raid. If the core is not there by 10, Grant will record your maintenance assignment as failed. Then you lose this room too.
Although calling this a room may be unfair to the bucket, he dropped the key and left. The hall had been closed for 8 years. The order was a trap, but I could not ignore it. With 1 gold coin a month, I could rent half a cupboard in the outer district. It would probably already contain a family. I took a maintenance knife and went downstairs. Training Hall 7 stood behind 2 iron gates. Wooden soldiers leaned against dusty walls. A copper core glowed inside a large training machine. The machine looked like a wardrobe that had learned violence. I took 3 steps into the hall. Something scratched behind me. An iron rat the size of a dog jumped from broken shields. I blocked its metal teeth. The impact numbed my wrist. It attacked again. I had no combat skill, but it only had one idea. That might was almost equal. I let it bite the edge of the shield. Its teeth caught. I drove the maintenance knife beneath its jaw and pushed until the blue light in its eyes went out. The voice inside my head announced my first victory. My strength increased by 2. My knife handling rose from 0 to 1. Warm pressure spread through my arms. The shield became lighter. I had entered with strength 7. Now I had strength 9. I continued toward the copper core. My foot pressed a loose tile. Something clicked. I turned as the machine crossed the hall in less than a second. Felix had removed the red safety pin from its chest. Without that pin, the machine did not stop at the marked line. Its iron arm hit me below the ribs. 3 bones broke. The ceiling spun. The machine lifted its arm again, but my legs no longer listened. The second blow ended the argument.
Darkness covered everything. Then water struck metal. I opened my eyes. I was on the bed. The clock showed 8:48. The pain was gone. My coat was clean. The knife rested on the chair. The brass key was gone because Felix had not knocked yet. My breathing stayed calm. My hands did not. My soul retained strength 9, agility 8, endurance 6, mana 4, and knife handling 1.
I had kept every gain. The world had lost 12 minutes. 3 knocks sounded at the door. Felix stood outside with the same key and smile. Grant found one last job for you. Training Hall 7, I said. Copper Control Core. Before 10. Did Grant already tell you? You just did. He dropped the key. This time I caught it. I returned to the hall. The iron rat attacked from the same pile. I stepped aside before it jumped. One strike beneath the jaw finished it. The kill granted no new strength. My soul already held that reward. The monster could return. Its gift could not.
I crossed the hall and stopped before the loose tile. A thin wire ran from it to the machine. I cut the wire, opened the machine's chest, and removed the copper core.
Behind the core was the missing safety pin with Felix's name engraved on it. Personal crests prevented theft. They also made sabotage easy to return. I put the pin back into the machine. Blue fire woke along the walls. The ranking crystal announced a first clear reward of 2 gold coins for completing the exit trial. Felix had expected the machine to crush me before that message. 3 wooden soldiers blocked the exit. I knew where the first would swing because I had seen its gears before my death. I cut the cord behind its knee and used it to block the second. The third machine was the iron ram. It charged. I stepped over the loose tile and turned sideways. The safety pin flashed red. The ram stopped 1 finger from my nose. The crystal recorded 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The academy bell rang. This time it was outside my skull. At 10, 600 students gathered for final raid selection. Grant stood beneath the crystal board. Felix wore both red badges. Then the board flashed blue. My name rose from the bottom. The crystal announced my clear. 2 gold coins appeared in the reward tray. My overall rank moved from 600th to 98th. Nobody laughed. I heard Felix's second badge fall. That hall was inactive. I placed the copper core on his table. It became active when I repaired the safety system. A maintenance worker cannot clear a combat course in 4 minutes. Then the combat students should feel concerned. A few people laughed. This time they were not laughing at me. Felix pushed through the crowd. He cheated. His strength was 7 yesterday. It was 7 this morning, I said. The board confirmed strength 9 and knife handling 1. The crowd stirred. A class with no growth bonus had gained 2 points since the ceremony. Cora stood near the front. The silver clock at her belt was turning backward. Grant picked up the copper core. The ranking crystal may be damaged. The result will be suspended. I placed the red safety pin beside it. Felix went pale. The core projected its last record above the arena. Felix entered the hall, pulled the safety pin, and hid his crest behind the core. Every student, family, and public notice crystal saw it. I was testing the safety system, he said. You tested it on the porter, Cora replied. The crowd laughed again. Grant tried to end the projection, but Nadia stepped onto the arena floor. She was tomorrow's raid captain. Once she witnessed a record, no instructor could alter it. The result stands, she said. Academy law requires compensation for deliberate interference with a ranked test. Felix threw 2 gold coins at my feet. I caught them. 4 gold coins. Felix pointed at the hall gate.
A recording proves nothing about his ability. I can clear that broken course in half his time. The crowd moved toward Training Hall 7. Public confidence often forced a man to meet himself. The crystal projected Felix as he burned the rat and 2 wooden soldiers. Then he reached the loose tile. "Step over it," I called. "I do not need advice from a porter." He stepped on it.
The iron ram crossed the hall like an angry wall. The safety pin stopped a killing blow. It did not stop the padded arm. Felix flew into a cart of wet sand. For several seconds only his boots were visible. The crystal displayed 1 word: failed. The arena exploded with laughter. 2 students pulled Felix out. Sand covered him like icing on an angry cake. Nadia removed 1 badge from his chest. The final raid position returns to Mason. She pinned it on my grey coat. Porter vanished from the board. A raid candidate appeared. My rank remained 98th, but my status rose from maintenance worker to active explorer. Across the city, notices reported that the worst class had broken an 8-year record. The Academy's future shield had been defeated by a floor tile. Felix glared at me. I gave him the advice he had rejected. Next time, step over it. Before midnight, I had 4 gold and 3 copper. Nadia also issued me a reinforced knife, a leather coat, and a place in the Old Well raid. My strength had risen from 7 to 9. My knife handling had risen from 0 to 1. My rank had risen from 600th to 98th. For one death, the profit was excellent, the memory was not. I could still hear my ribs break whenever the bell rang. Cora found me outside a small food shop near the west wall. I was studying the prices with the focus of a general facing an enemy army. "You have 4 gold coins," she said. "That is why I still have 4 gold coins." She pointed at the cheapest table. "The beef stew costs 3 silver. If it defeats you, I will pay." We ordered 2 bowls. The stew arrived thick and hot. Pieces of beef rested beneath potatoes, carrots, and soft onions. Black pepper warmed the broth. The bread had a crisp brown crust, and steam escaped when I tore it open. A small dish of honey butter melted between us. For the first time that day, nothing tried to kill me. I considered that a luxury. Cora dipped her bread into the broth. "You moved before the iron ram moved." It was loud. No, the gears had not started. I looked at the silver clock on her belt. Its longest hand trembled whenever it pointed toward me. "You study time." I listened to it. Around most people, time sounds like rain. Around you, it sounds like someone dropped a tray down a staircase. Is that a medical problem? It may be a furniture problem. She smiled, but her next question was quiet. "How many times did Felix knock on your door tonight?" I did not answer. Cora reached across the table and touched 2 fingers to my wrist. Her expression changed. "Your body is not injured," she said, "but your time is." Everyone else had seen a record, a ranking, and 4 gold coins. Cora was the first person who saw the price. She released my wrist. "I will not ask again today, but if tomorrow's raid feels wrong, tell me before I die." The spoon stopped halfway to my mouth. She did not know what had happened. Some part of her remembered anyway. We finished the stew. I paid 6 silver for both bowls and another 2 silver for bread to take home. I had 3 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper left. It was more money than I had owned that morning. It also felt good to carry warm bread instead of broken shields. Night had fallen when I returned to my room. The bucket waited beneath the leak. The bedpost still held the pale ring of my save point. I placed the bread on the chair. Something cracked. A black line appeared above the bedpost. It was no longer than my smallest finger. Cold air flowed from it. The wall behind it was gone. Beyond the line, I saw the same room covered in ash. A man stood inside that ruined room. He had my face. He was older. A scar crossed his mouth. One of his eyes shone with pale light. The voice inside my head announced the first temporal fracture. The man leaned closer, his eye fixed on mine. Then my own older voice came through the crack. "Good," he whispered. "Only 9 deaths remain before you destroy the academy." The first time the old well killed us, the water rose toward the ceiling instead of the floor. The 4th time it killed us, Cora looked straight at me and asked why I had already watched her die. At dawn, I stood beside the academy gate with my new raid team. Nadia wore silver armor. Cora checked her clock. Felix still had sand in his hair. Finn carried a healing staff. Evo wore enough metal to make Stairs nervous. Instructor Grant faced the public viewing crystal. "The old well is a beginner dungeon," he announced. "The route has been stable for 11 years. Follow the official map, defeat the Guardian, and return within 3 hours." The Academy board showed a reward of 30 gold coins. 6 members meant 5 gold each. 3,000 citizens watched through public crystals. They wanted to see the worst class fail in a real dungeon. Felix smiled at the viewing crystal. "I will show everyone the difference between a coarse trick and real power." Nadia looked at him. "Show the monsters. They care more." Several students near the gate laughed. I touched the stone arch. The voice inside my head asked whether I wished to replace my single save point. The point beneath my old bed would be erased forever, I agreed. Pale light entered the stone. My new save point was fixed at 6:10 in the morning. Cora's silver clock stopped for one breath, so she looked at my hand. "What did you do?" I made sure I could find the gate. That sounded like a lie. It was a very accurate lie. Grant opened the dungeon. Cold air flowed from the stone arch. Beyond it waited a circular shaft lined with wet bricks. An iron stair turned downward around black water. The smell of salt, moss, and old metal filled my nose. Nadia ordered me to walk behind Ivo. Felix pointed at my reinforced knife. "Try not to mark the place where you dropped that." I ignored him and studied the walls. Grant's map promised one route and one guardian. After 50 steps, it became useless. The stair divided into 3 tunnels. Nadia stopped. "The eastern tunnel is not recorded." Felix raised a flame above his palm. "The central tunnel leads down. We take it." The first iron hound attacked before Nadia answered. It climbed from the black water with rusted plates over its body. Evo blocked its jaws. Felix threw a firebolt, but the wet armor turned most of the flame into steam. I moved behind the hound. My knife found a gap beneath its rear leg. One cut broke a metal cord. Nadia's shield crushed its head. The voice announced that my agility had increased by 2. My knife handling rose from 1 to 2. The public crystal flashed our contribution scores. Nadia received half the kill. I received 4 parts out of 10. Felix received none. Back at the academy, the watchers became quiet. Felix became louder. "It was already injured." "Then thank it for helping me," I said. We entered the central tunnel. The bricks changed from black to white. Water dripped upward. At first, I thought my eyes were tired. Then a drop left the floor, past my face, and vanished into the ceiling. Cora touched her clock. "Time is folding here." The floor seal lit beneath us. Grant's map marked no trap. Water exploded from the cracks. It did not cover our boots. It rushed upward in a solid wall and struck the ceiling. Gravity turned with it. We fell up. I hit the stone above us. Ivo's armor pulled him faster. Finn lost his staff. Felix's fire became a cloud of steam. Nadia drove her sword between 2 bricks and caught Cora with her free hand. Then the thing living in the ceiling opened its mouth. It looked like an eel wrapped around the entire chamber. Its teeth formed 3 circles. The water carried Evo into them first. The public viewing crystal went dark. Nadia tried to pull us toward the tunnel. The eel swallowed Finn. Felix screamed once. Cora's fingers slipped from Nadia's arm. I caught Cora by the wrist. Her silver clock cracked. "The map was wrong," she said. The eel closed its jaws around us. Water struck metal. No, stone pressed against my palm. I opened my eyes beside the academy gate. The clock above it showed 6:10. Nadia adjusted her shield. Finn yawned. Ivo complained about the weight of his armor. Felix smiled at a viewing crystal that had not yet started. Cora stared at me. I checked my soul. It held agility 10, knife handling 2, and a return count of 2. I had kept my gains. The team had returned. None of them remembered dying. Grant began the same speech. "The old well is a beginner dungeon." "The map is wrong," I said. His mouth stayed open. 3,000 viewers heard me interrupt him. Grant lowered his crystal. "You have never entered the old well." The central tunnel contains an inverted gravity seal. A ceiling eel waits above it. The east tunnel is missing from your map. Felix laughed. Nadia did not. "How do you know?" I pointed at Evo. "His left shoulder strap will break after 50 steps. I pointed at Finn. "He has 2 healing stones in his right boot because he does not trust Felix near the supply bag." Finn slowly moved his foot away from Felix. Then I looked at Nadia. "You sharpened the inside edge of your shield. You have not told the academy because that modification is forbidden." Nadia's eyes narrowed. "We take the eastern tunnel," she said. Grant objected. Nadia ignored him. I replaced my save point at the gate again. It did not change the time. It only confirmed that the anchor still belonged to me. We entered the dungeon. The Iron Hound attacked in the same place. I cut the cord before it opened its jaws. Nadia finished it with 1 strike. No reward came to me. My soul had already claimed it. At the 3 tunnels we turned east. Blue mushrooms and glass crabs filled the narrow passage. Grant's map recorded neither. Felix burned the first group. The mushrooms released green dust. Finn coughed. Cora shouted a warning, but the dust entered our lungs. Healing magic made it spread faster. I crushed 3 glass crabs before my arms weakened. My strength rose by 2. My endurance rose by 1. Then Finn collapsed. Evo followed. Felix tried to burn the dust. The tunnel became an oven. Nadia died on her feet. Cora fell beside me. Her clock cracked along the same silver line. "Why does this feel familiar?" she whispered. My heart stopped before I could answer. Stone pressed against my palm. I returned to 610. My soul now held strength 11, agility 10, endurance 7, knife handling 2, and a return count of 3. Cora stood beside me with an unbroken clock. She touched her throat. I can taste green dust. Grant had not started speaking. I looked at her. "You remember?" "No, but I know I hate mushrooms. That was enough. On the 3rd attempt, Cora convinced Nadia before I spoke. We took the east tunnel with wet cloth over our mouths. Finn sealed the mushrooms in ice. I collected the glass crabs without breathing their dust. We reached a bronze door." Felix was tired of following instructions. "Every delay lowers our clear score," he said. "The official route is behind this wall. Stand back." I remembered the smell near that door. "Do not use fire." He raised both hands. "You are a porter with a knife. And you're standing in swamp gas." He released the spell. The door became white. The world became louder than thought. Fire filled the tunnel. Cora created a time barrier, but it shattered. Nadia covered Finn. I was thrown through the wall and landed in the central chamber. The ceiling eel looked down at me. It seemed pleased that dinner had learned to cook itself. Before it swallowed me, the voice announced that killing the glass crabs had increased my mana by 2 and raised my trap sense from 0 to 1. Then everything went dark. I returned to the gate. My mana had reached 6, trap sense had reached 1, and my return count had reached 4. Felix began smiling at the viewing crystal. I caught the front of his coat. "There is swamp gas behind the bronze door. If you use fire, all 6 of us die." His smile vanished. "Take your hand off me." "I already watched your spell kill Cora, Nadia, Finn, Ivo, and me. I am trying to prevent a second performance." The public crystal had activated. Hundreds of students heard every word. Felix pushed my hand away. "You are insane!" Cora stepped between us. "Maybe, but I remember the heat." She described the bronze door before we had entered the dungeon. Nadia took command at once. "Mason chooses the route. Felix follows orders. Anyone who refuses remains outside." Felix looked at the viewing crystal. Leaving would destroy the reputation he had left. He stayed. On the 4th attempt, nobody died in the first 3 tunnels. We froze the mushrooms. We opened the bronze door without flame. We disabled the gravity seal from the eastern control room. The ceiling eel fell into its own pool, where Nadia cut its throat. The public board placed me first, and the academy square erupted. Then the floor beneath the dead eel opened. The true guardian climbed out. The well mother had 4 long necks covered in white scales. 3 heads rose above the water. The 4th remained beneath it. Grant's map showed 1 guardian. The old well contained 2. Felix burned the left head. Cora slowed the right. Evo held the center while Nadia drove her sword through its eye. Finn kept us alive. For 5 minutes we fought perfectly. Then the hidden head came through the floor. It bit Ivo in half. Its tail broke Finn's staff. Nadia lost her shield. Felix used all his mana on a final flame and collapsed. Cora slowed the creature for 3 breaths and... "Mason," she said, "why are you crying?" I had watched this team die 3 times. I was tired of learning their last words. The hidden head took Nadia. I stabbed its eye and gained 2 points of strength, 3 points of endurance, and the skill called Flow Reading at level 1. The other heads closed around me. Cora's clock cracked. "You have seen this before," she said. "4 times?" The jaws closed, stone pressed against my palm. My return count reached 5. I opened my eyes at the gate and kept my hand on the stone. My retained abilities now measured strength 13, agility 10, endurance 10, mana 6, knife handling 2, trap sense 1, and flow reading 1. Nadia adjusted her shield. I had one final route. Grant opened his mouth. "The old well is not a beginner dungeon," I said. "It contains an inverted gravity seal, poison mushrooms, swamp gas, a ceiling eel, and a 4-headed guardian. One head moves beneath the floor." The viewing crystal showed Grant's face to the entire city. "That is impossible," he said. "Then watch." I turned to Nadia. "Give me command until we return." Felix nearly choked. Nadia studied me for one breath. "Granted." The crowd outside the gate shouted loud enough for us to hear it through the portal. On the 5th timeline, we moved like people following a finished plan. I cut the Iron Hound's cord. Cora froze the mushrooms. Finn sealed the poison. Eva opened the bronze door without touching the gas. Felix kept his fire in his hands. At the gravity chamber, I broke the hidden seal. The ceiling eel fell. Nadia killed it before the viewing crystal could follow the movement. Our clear time passed 20 minutes. The old record was 2 hours and 11 minutes. Thousands of viewers watched our names climb the board. We reached the Well Mother. "Felix, burn the water on my signal, not the heads." He looked ready to argue. Cora pointed her clock at him. "I remember you turning us into soup." Felix obeyed. Nadia and I attacked the 3 visible heads. I did not block every strike. I stood where the strikes would miss. Flow reading showed me the direction of moving water. The hidden head became a pressure beneath my feet. "Now!" Felix released his fire across the pool. Steam covered the chamber. The hidden head burst through the floor exactly where I waited. I drove my knife into its eye. Nadia's sharpened shield cut through its neck. The other heads screamed. Cora froze one in a slowed second. Evo held another. Finn poured healing light into Nadia's wounded arm. Felix destroyed the final head with a narrow flame. The Well Mother fell. No one had died. The dungeon crystal announced a clear time of 33 minutes. For 3 breaths, nobody in the Academy Square made a sound. Then 3,000 voices hit the viewing crystal at once. The sound shook dust from the dungeon ceiling. Our contribution scores appeared. Mine was 47 parts out of 100. Nadia held 20, Cora held 16, Finn held 7, Evo held 5. Felix held 5. Felix stared at the numbers. "The score is wrong. Perhaps the dungeon is jealous," I said. Nadia laughed first. The others followed. We returned through the gate carrying the Guardian Core. The Academy Square was full. Students stood on walls and roofs. Merchants had stopped their carts. The city notice board displayed my name in blue light. Grant stepped forward. "The team succeeded by following the Academy's emergency plan." Nadia dropped his official map at his feet. "Your plan did not contain half the dungeon." The crowd became silent. She pointed at me. "Mason found every trap. Mason directed every member. Mason brought all 6 of us home." The square erupted again. My rank rose from 98th to 24th. The treasury paid my 5 gold share. The dungeon office paid 8 gold for my corrected map and 2 gold for discovering an unregistered guardian. I now owned 18 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper. Nadia gave me a blue steel knife from the Guardian Core. It was worth 12 gold and increased my knife handling from 2 to 3. My strength had risen from 9 to 13. My agility had risen from 8 to 10. My endurance had risen from 6 to 10. My mana had risen from 4 to 6. My name was no longer a joke. Felix's contribution score remained on every public board in the city, 5 parts out of 100. Someone had drawn a small floor tile beside it. That evening, Nadia took the team to a food shop beside the river. The owner served fried fish with garlic rice, buttered beans, and slices of lemon. The skin cracked beneath my fork. The meat inside was soft and white, with hot butter carried the taste of pepper and herbs through the rice. Finn ordered soup. I moved his bowl to the other end of the table. Personal problem? He asked. Professional disagreement with water. Cora sat beside me. She placed a cup of hot apple tea near my hand. You looked at each of us differently after the raid, she said. I was checking that everyone was present. How many times did we fail? I watched Nadia argue with Ivo over the final piece of fish. Felix sat at the far end, pretending not to hear the nearby tables discuss his score. 4. Cora's fingers tightened around her clock. Did I die? 4 times. She was quiet. Then she pushed the honey cake toward me. You need this more than I do. That is the nicest possible response to repeated death. I've not decided whether to hug you or hit you. The cake is safer. We shared it.
For a few minutes the room was warm. Plates moved. Butter melted. Nadia laughed. Nobody screamed. I wanted to keep that timeline. When we left the shop, Cora stopped beneath a street lamp. Her silver clock had begun turning backward. 4 pale figures appeared behind her. One was wet, one coughed green dust, one was burned, one had blood across her coat. They were all Cora. They were all dead.
She stared at them. Then she looked at me. Mason, she whispered. There are 4 dead versions of me following us. 4 dead versions of Cora followed us into breakfast. The burned one pointed at Instructor Grant and silently counted 3 more deaths. Cora and I sat inside the empty time laboratory before sunrise. Copper clocks covered the walls. A kettle heated over a blue flame. On the table, warm rolls smelled of cinnamon, butter, and brown sugar. The living Cora held one roll. The 4 dead Coras stood behind her. They repeat their final memories, she said. The wet one keeps reaching for your hand. The poisoned one cannot breathe. The burned one is very angry with Felix. That makes 2 of you. 5. She tore the roll in half and passed me the larger piece. They are not souls, she continued. They have no future and cannot leave the moment before death. They are marks left on me because my class can feel damaged time. I looked at the wet echo. Does that make it better? No. The cinnamon roll was soft inside. Sugar cracked across the top. I ate slowly because it was easier than explaining why I remembered every sound they had made. Cora touched the silver clock at her belt. The echoes agree on one thing. Grant's map was not simply old. In 3 deaths, they saw his seal on the hidden traps. Someone struck the laboratory door. An academy messenger pushed a red notice beneath it. Instructor Grant had ordered me to attend a public class review at 9. The notice accused me of concealing an unstable temporal ability, falsifying a dungeon route, and gaining attributes through an unregistered method. Until the review ended, the Academy froze my raid rewards, my rank, and my place on Nadia's team. Grant had lost control of the story. Now he wanted to declare the story illegal. By 8, the central arena was full. Students occupied every seat. Merchants watched through city crystals. The families who had seen my humiliation on Awakening Day had returned to see whether it could happen again. My name stood at rank 24. My money remained 18 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper, but a red seal covered the amount. Grant stood before 5 academy judges. He looked tired. The old well map had carried his approval mark. If the academy admitted that he knew about the hidden guardian, he would lose his license. If he claimed ignorance, he would lose his position. He had selected a 3rd path. He would blame the student who survived. Mason claims to possess knowledge of events before they occur, Grant told the crowd. Such abilities may result from forbidden prediction magic, dungeon corruption, or cooperation with temporal creatures. The crowd whispered. Nadia stood as my raid witness. Cora stood beside her. Felix waited near the rear wall with his arms crossed. Grant pointed at a bronze door beneath the arena. The review is simple. Mason will face a standard bronze sentinel. If his class is legitimate, he may demonstrate it. If he fails, his rewards will fund repairs to the old well, and he will leave the academy. The judges nodded. I raised one hand. Did you personally inspect the sentinel? Grant hesitated. The sound crystal waited. Yes. And it is a standard bronze model? Yes. His answers entered the public record. I touched the arena gate. The voice asked whether I wished to replace my save point. I set it at 9 in the morning. Return count remained 5. Cora's clock stopped. One of her dead echoes turned toward the bronze door and shook her head. The gate closed behind me. The arena floor opened. A sentinel climbed from the dark. Bronze armor covered its body, but silver light burned between the plates. It stood twice my height. 6 smaller blades floated behind its shoulders. Nadia struck the witness rail. That is a silver judge. The judges stood. Grant spread his hands. The outer armor may have been replaced. The sentinel moved. One floating blade crossed the arena before I heard it. I twisted aside. The edge cut my leather coat. The public board identified the machine. Silver judge. Recommended team size 12. My test allowed 1. The crowd shouted. Grant ordered the test to continue. The sentinel released 6 brass drones. I cut the first beneath its wing. The second struck my shoulder. I used its force to turn and drove my knife through the third. My agility increased by 2. Knife handling rose from 3 to 4. The gains reached my soul before the silver judge reached me. Its fist broke my shield, my arm, and the stone behind me. I rolled, but a floating blade entered my back. The arena disappeared. I stood at the gate. The clock showed 9. My return count reached 6. My agility remained 12 and knife handling remained 4. Grant faced the judges. Mason claims to possess knowledge of events before they occur. Cora gripped the rail. A 5th dead version of her stood beside the others. This one had not entered the arena. She pointed at a dead version of me lying beyond the gate. I interrupted Grant. You installed a silver judge. It will release 6 brass drones, then attack with floating blades. Its first blade targets my left shoulder. The arena became silent. Grant's face lost color. He inspected the chamber before the hearing. You said you inspected it. Nadia smiled without warmth. Grant opened the gate. The silver judge climbed out again. Its first blade turned toward my left shoulder. I moved before it flew. The viewing crystal showed the blade miss by less than a finger. Thousands of people reacted at once. I destroyed the first drone. No reward came. I ignored the second. I slid beneath the judge and cut the blue cord behind its knee. That cord had carried power during my first death. This time the judge moved its leg away before my knife arrived. I froze. The machine remembered. Its metal face turned toward me. Pale cracks covered its silver eyes. The voice warned that the target had retained combat data from an erased timeline. That was new. The judge kicked me across the arena. I landed near the judge's platform. I understood the cost of the crack above my bed. My growth remained after death. Now an enemy's experience could remain too. The judge changed every pattern. It used the drones as shields. It waited when I expected it to charge. Its floating blades crossed paths in ways I had never seen. I destroyed 2 new drones before it trapped my knife between its fingers. The effort raised my endurance by 2 and awakened resonance sense at level 1. Silver light pulsed through the machine. I saw a thin black thread running from its core toward the arena wall. Then the judge crushed me against the gate. I returned to 9. My return count reached 7. My endurance remained 12, and resonance sense remained 1. Cora stared at the empty space beside me. There are 2 dead versions of you now. The machine remembers them too. Nadia heard us. Can you win? Yes. Was that confidence? It was a calculation with missing parts. That sounds less healthy. Grant began his speech for the 3rd time. I let him finish. Then I faced the crowd.
The silver judge is connected to a temporal fracture. It remembers erased battles Instructor Grant knew because his seal powers the connection. Grant struck the sound crystal. Stop this test. The bronze gate did not open. He had already locked the controls to prevent me from escaping. The crowd saw him pull the useless lever. The judge entered. This time, it guarded the weak cord behind its knee. It knew I knew. I attacked its right shoulder instead. It blocked. I had expected that. The floating blades moved to protect the core. I threw my knife at a brass drone, pulled the drone close with its chain, and used it to strike the judge's face. The silver eyes cracked. The black thread became visible. Cora shouted from beyond the rail. The thread leads to Grant's seal. The judge heard her. One blade changed direction. It flew toward Cora. The weapon could not cross the protective wall. It should not have crossed. The black thread opened a narrow crack. The blade passed through. I jumped between it and Cora. Cold metal entered my chest. Cora caught me against the rail. Her living face and 5 dead faces looked down at me. "Do not waste this," I said. "I will remember." The judge pulled the blade back. I died before I hit the floor. I returned to 9. My return count reached 8. My strength had become 15, my mana had become 9, and resonant sense had reached 2. The blade had not granted those gains. During the third fight, I had destroyed 2 new drones and severed part of the temporal thread. The system rewarded the actions before my death. Cora stood beside the rail. Her hand moved to the place where my blood had covered her coat. There was no blood now. "You protected me," she whispered. "You remembered." "Not everything. Enough." Grant began speaking. Cora interrupted him. "The machine will target me through the barrier. The temporal thread connects to your instructor seal." Every judge looked at Grant. He touched the seal beneath his coat. That movement was enough. I entered the arena for the final time. The silver judge stepped out with all 6 blades raised. It remembered 3 versions of me. It guarded its knee, right shoulder, eyes, and core. It expected every attack I had used, so I did not attack. I stood in the center and lowered my knife. The judge waited. The public watched. 10 seconds passed. The machine shifted its weight to protect the knee. Another 10 seconds passed. It raised 2 blades over the right shoulder. It was fighting memories. I was fighting the machine in front of me. Resonance sense showed the rhythm of power inside its armor. Each defense pulled energy from the silver core. Each remembered threat forced it to divide that energy again. After 1 minute, all 6 blades guarded attacks that never came. The judge's chest opened to cool the core. I moved. My agility was 12. My knife handling was 4. Flow reading showed the air pushed by every blade. I passed between them. 1 step, 2, 3. My knife entered the open core. I cut the black thread. The arena shook. The silver judge froze. Then it turned away from me. The thread had carried more than battle memories. It carried Grant's ownership seal. The judge identified its controlling opponent. Grant ran. 6 floating blades followed him around the judge's platform. He climbed over a chair. He crawled beneath a table. He threw his instructor coat at the machine and hid behind the oldest judge. The crowd laughed so hard that the sound crystal began to whistle. I could have watched longer. I struck the emergency point inside the core. The judge stopped with 1 blade touching Grant's nose. His legs failed. He sat on the floor in front of the entire city. The opened core projected its installation record. Grant stood inside the image. He replaced the bronze power stone with a silver judge core. He connected his seal to a black fragment taken from the old well. Then he ordered the machine to use lethal force. The projection showed the date. He had installed it before issuing my class review. 1 judge removed Grant's instructor seal. Another unfroze my account. Nadia climbed into the arena and raised my arm. The crowd stood. My rank rose from 24th to 7th.
The Academy paid 40 gold in compensation for the lethal test. My total became 58 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper. The judges awarded me the silver mantle from this defeated machine. It was worth 25 gold and could stop one heavy strike. My strength had risen from 13 to 15. My agility had risen from 10 to 12. My endurance had risen from 10 to 12. My mana had risen from 6 to 9. My knife handling had reached 4. Instructor Grant had started the morning above the arena. He ended it sitting on the floor without shoes. One had fallen beneath the judge's table. The other had landed in the public fountain. Felix picked up the wet shoe. For a moment, I expected him to defend Grant. Instead, he placed it on the evidence table. He told me the safety pin would only frighten Mason, Felix said. He also gave me the false old well map. Grant looked at him with open hatred. Felix met his eyes. I wanted Mason's raid place. I did not agree to kill a team. It did not erase what Felix had done. It was still the first honest thing I had heard from him. That evening, Cora, Nadia, and I ate in the time laboratory because the city food shops were full of people arguing about my test. Nadia brought roasted chicken with crisp skin. Cora cooked small potatoes in butter and rosemary. I cut fresh bread while the kettle filled the room with the smell of apple and cinnamon. The silver mantle hung from a chair. Rank 7, Nadia said. 2 days ago, you were rank 600. The Academy has efficient stairs. You did not use the stairs. Cora placed a potato on my plate. He used the floor a dungeon and repeated death. Nadia stopped chewing. Repeated what? Cora looked at me. I told Nadia the truth. I explained the save point, the retained growth, and 8 returns. I described the 4 erased raids. I described the Silver Judge learning from my deaths. Nadia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she pushed the entire chicken toward me. Eat. That is your response? My response contains several words that would ruin the meal. Eat first. Cora smiled. For a while, we did. The chicken was hot and salty. The potatoes broke beneath the fork and absorbed the rosemary butter. The bread carried the juices from the plate. The dead Cora stood near the wall. The dead versions of me stood beside them. None of them moved. At the end of the meal, every clock in the laboratory stopped. Black carriages entered the Academy Square. Men and women in grey uniforms surrounded the building. Each wore the symbol of a broken hourglass. The largest city, crystal lit by itself. A tall man with pale hair appeared on it. My name is Director Lucan of the Imperial Time Bureau, he said. 8 unauthorized returns have been detected. 5 fractures are already open beneath this academy. Students filled the square. The judges came outside. Grant was brought from the holding room in chains. Lucan stepped from the first carriage. His eyes found me through the laboratory window. Mason, he said, and the sound reached every crystal in the city. Your class is no longer an academy matter. He raised a black seal. All 4 dead versions of Cora turned toward him. Then they knelt. From this moment, Lucan said, you belong to the Time Bureau. Director Lucan knew the exact minute of my 9th death. He also knew that my 10th would open a door for the man wearing my face. The Academy Square remained silent. Lucan walked beneath the city crystal with 12 grey officers behind him. His black seal made the dead echoes kneel, but the living students stayed on their feet. I left the time laboratory and met him beside the fountain. Grant's wet shoe still floated in the water. Lucan noticed it. The Academy appears to have had an eventful day. The shoe had the worst day. His mouth almost moved. Then he opened a metal case. Inside lay a sheet of black glass. 10 white lines crossed its surface. 8 were filled with light. This is a chrono ledger, Lucan said. Every time you return, a reality produces a pressure wave. We have recorded 8. 8 returns had created 8 cracks. 3 had joined neighboring fractures, leaving 5 larger openings beneath the academy. The crowd reacted. The public knew I predicted traps. They did not know I had died 8 times. Lucan touched the 9th line. At the 9th return, the fractures begin releasing temporal beasts. His finger moved to the 10th. At the 10th, a stable human passage opens. I remembered the older face inside the crack above my bed.
You have seen him. Lucan did not ask. He knew. Who? The version of you who survived the final hour. The name passed through the crowd like cold wind.
Cora reached my side. Her dead echoes remained on their knees behind her. "What is the final hour?" she asked. Lucan raised the black glass. The city crystal showed an image of the capital beneath a white sky. Towers leaned in different directions. People stood frozen in the streets while their shadows walked without them. A collapse predicted to occur within 1 year. 80,000 deaths appear in every projection. Your future self knows its cause. Lucan closed the case. Work for the Bureau. You will receive 100 gold for every authorized return. You will hold the rank of Imperial Agent. We will secure your save point and decide when a death is necessary. Your 100 gold for dying. Mussy. The Bureau had found a way to make murder sound like employment. And if I refuse, the Academy will be quarantined. Cora will be detained as a contaminated chronomancer. Anyone carrying an echo will be isolated. The crowd shouted. Lucan raised one hand. This is not punishment. 5 fractures are open beneath your feet. If they join, everyone inside these walls may disappear from history. His motive was not difficult to understand. He wanted to save 80,000 people. He was willing to turn me into a lever to do it. You already knew Grant used a temporal fragment, I said. Lucan looked toward the chained instructors. The Bureau sold fragments to the Academy for research. Grant violated the agreement. Grant stepped forward. You ordered me to test whether Mason's class could feed the fragment. Every city crystal carried his words. Lucan's officers struck Grant behind the knees. He fell. Lucan did not look at him. A criminal facing judgment will say anything. Grant laughed from the ground. He's right, Mason. I am a criminal. That does not make him innocent. Lucan ordered his officers to close the academy gates. Grey pylons were placed around the walls. Each one carried black crystals like the fragment inside the silver judge. The officers called them containment tools. Resonant Sense called them something else. The crystals pulled at the fractures. They were not closing the cracks. They were drawing them together. I told Cora and Nadia after midnight. We stood in the academy kitchen while bureau officers patrolled outside. Felix had joined us without being invited. Finn and Evo guarded the rear door. Nadia placed a pan over the stove. "Lucan knows you will die again," she said. "That means he plans to make it happen." "Twice?" Cora added. The dead echoes still knelt whenever the Black Seal passed nearby. I disliked seeing them obey. Nadia fried thick slices of bread in butter. Felix cut smoked ham. Cora cracked eggs into the pan and covered them with cheese. Soon the kitchen smelled of pepper, toasted bread, and melting fat. We built hot sandwiches while discussing our deaths. The academy had strange study methods. Felix pushed a plate toward me. "Grant told me the first trap would embarrass you. I believed him because I wanted to." I bit into the sandwich. The bread cracked. Egg yolk mixed with melted cheese and soaked into the ham. "That is not an apology." "I know." "Good." He nodded. It was not forgiveness. It was a place where forgiveness might grow later. I finished the sandwich and touched the kitchen wall. The voice asked whether I wished to replace my save point. My point at the arena gate had protected Grant's public defeat and our old well clear. Leaving it there would send me back almost a full day. I created a new point at 12:05 after midnight. The pale ring entered the stone. Ikora's clock moved backward once. Lucan's black pylons lit outside. He had felt the anchor. At 1:17, the third pylon cracked. I knew the time because Lucan had written it in the chronal ledger. White light spread over the eastern dormitory. Students ran into the courtyard. The city crystals activated. Bureau officers formed a line around the pylon. The first temporal wolf stepped through the light. It had no skin. Silver numbers moved across its muscles. Its head appeared 1 second before its body, then vanished and returned behind an officer. The officer never saw the bite. Nadia blocked the second attack. I cut the wolf beneath its jaw. It disappeared before my knife landed and returned above me. Flow reading followed the air. Resonance sense followed the broken second. I turned and stabbed the place where it would return. The wolf formed around my blade. The voice announced that my agility had increased by 2 and my mana by 1. 3 more wolves came from the pylon. Cora slowed one. Felix burned another with a narrow flame. Nadia protected the students moving from the dormitory. The public crystal showed the bureau officers losing ground. They also showed a student with the worst class killing the first beast. My rank rose from 7th to 4th before the battle ended. Lucan stood on the tower balcony. He did not order the pylon closed. He watched the black ledger. He wants the return, I said. Cora heard me. We ran toward the central tower. 2 pylons broke at once. A creature like a long white centipede crossed the wall. Each of its legs stood in a different second. It tore through stone, students, and officers without slowing. Felix struck it with fire. The flame burned its past body while the present body continued forward. I climbed onto Nadia's shield. She threw me. For 1 moment I flew above the creature. I cut a blue knot between 2 seconds. The centipede screamed. My mana increased by 1 more point. Then the eastern tower fell. Stone covered the courtyard. I saw Cora beneath it. I reached her first. The silver mantle stopped 1 block. My endurance held against the second. The third crushed both of us. I returned to the kitchen wall. The smell of toasted bread filled the room. The clock showed 12:05. My return count reached 9. My agility remained 14, and my mana remained 11. My hands held nothing. The temporal cores and broken pylon were gone. Cora stood beside the pan. Her living eyes widened. A crushed version of her appeared near the stove. 1:17, she said. The third pylon breaks. Nadia put down her sandwich. Felix looked between us. Did we die? The tower did most of the work. We had 1 hour and 12 minutes. I went directly to Lucan's office. 2 bureau officers blocked the door. I told them the third pylon would break at 1:17 and kill 7 of their people. I gave the names I had read from their badges while pulling bodies from the courtyard. They let me pass. Lucan sat beside the chronal ledger. The 9th line was glowing. He had retained the record even though the world had returned. You died on schedule, he said. You let the pylon break. The 9th return was necessary. Now the next pressure wave can open a stable passage. You are forcing the 10th. Your future self has information that may save 80,000 lives. The Academy contains 1,200. Lucan's eyes hardened. Then you understand the calculation. The room had a public communication crystal on the desk. It was dark. I memorized every word. You will sacrifice 1,200 students to question 1 man. I will sacrifice 1 academy to save a capital. And if he refuses to answer, then I will bind him with the black seal. Lucan lifted it. The dead echoes outside the window bent lower. The seal is made from erased people, I said. It is made from usable residue. I understood him completely then. Lucan did not hate us. He had simply converted every person into a number. At 1:17, we disabled the third pylon before it broke. I knew the code from watching an officer enter it in the dead timeline. Cora reversed the crystal flow. Nadia held the bureau guards outside. Felix burned the lock without igniting the power chamber. The city crystals showed the pylon go dark. The crowd cheered. Lucan activated the other 4 at once. He did not pretend anymore. The academy walls split. Time wolves entered the dormitories. The white centipede appeared above the library. A black serpent wrapped around the central tower and pulled it into 3 different hours. Nadia led the evacuation. Felix and Finn opened the western gate. Evo carried 2 injured students at a time. Cora and I climbed the tower toward Lucan. We destroyed 2 new temporal beasts on the stairs. My strength increased by 3. My endurance increased by 3. My mana increased by 1. My strength reached 18. My endurance reached 15. And my mana reached 12. The black serpent struck through the wall. I cut one of its time knots. It remembered the movement from the dead timeline. Its tail arrived first. The strike broke the stairs beneath Cora. I caught her hand. Lucan stood above us with the black seal raised. "Let go," he ordered. The dead echoes pulled at Cora from below. Her fingers slipped. I dragged her upward anyway. The serpent wrapped around the tower. Lucan activated the central pylon. White light erased the room. I died with Cora's hand in mine. The smell of toasted bread returned. I stood beside the kitchen wall. My return count reached 10. Cora dropped the cheese. Every dead echo rose from its knees. The black seal no longer controlled them. 10 returns had changed the rule. For the final timeline, I did not run to the pylon. I prepared witnesses. Nadia brought the academy judges to the communication hall. Felix opened the public crystals. Cora copied my memories of Lucan's office into her clock as far as her class allowed. Then I entered his office and repeated our conversation. "You will sacrifice 1,200 students to question 1 man. Lucan gave the same answer. "I will sacrifice 1 academy to save a capital." The communication crystal on his desk lit. His face appeared on every board in the city. So did mine. Lucan turned toward the crystal. Outside, thousands of people shouted. His own officers heard him call erased humans usable residue. 2 lowered their weapons. The senior officer removed the bureau crest from her shoulder and placed it on Lucan's desk. "Emergency command requires protection of the greater population," she said. "It does not permit the planned murder of 1,200 witnesses." Lucan ordered her arrested. No one moved. Outside, students tore the quarantine notices from the gates. Merchants in the square turned their price boards into signs supporting the academy. The city ranking crystal replayed Lucan's confession 3 times because the crowd kept demanding it. His black command mark vanished from the public board. Mine rose above it. Lucan still controlled the charged pylons, but he no longer controlled the people standing beside them. The third pylon still cracked at 1:17. This time, everyone was ready. Nadia evacuated the dormitory before the first wolf arrived. Felix sealed the east passage with controlled fire. Cora marked each place where a beast would return. I killed the wolves without losing 1 student. We disabled the pylon before the white centipede crossed the wall. The Academy Emergency Board awarded 60 gold for 5 temporal cores. My total rose to 118 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper. The final wolf left a narrow blade of temporal steel. It fused with my blue knife and raised knife handling from 4 to 5. The public ranking board placed me first. 2 days earlier I had been last. Now the entire city watched Director Lucan lose command of his own officers. Nadia removed the black seal from his hand. The dead echoes surrounded him. He could not see them, but he felt the cold. "You have ruined our only chance to question the future," he said. "No," I replied. "I change too asks the questions." At 2 a.m, all 5 fractures became silent. The line above my new save point opened. It widened into a door. Ash fell through it, An older man stepped into the academy kitchen. He wore broken armor, hundreds of pale marks covered his arms, a scar crossed his mouth, and one eye shone with the light of a save point. He had my face. The voice inside my head identified him as a future version of Mason. His return count was 341. No one laughed. Future Mason looked at Cora first. Pain crossed his face. Then he faced me. "I know what you are planning," he said. "I tried it in 37 timelines." He pointed through the window at the academy. "If these 1,200 people survive tonight, the fractures join beneath the capital. 83,417 people die at noon." Nadia raised her shield. Cora stood beside me. Future Mason did not reach for a weapon. He only gave me the order he had crossed time to deliver. "Move your save point outside the city," he said. "Then let the academy die." My future self had watched Cora die 219 times. She heard that number, crossed the kitchen, and slapped him once. The sound traveled through the public crystal. 1,200 students heard it, so did half the city. Future Mason touched his cheek. "You did that in 9 timelines." Cora raised her hand again. "Would you like to make it 10? He lowered his hand. "No." Nadia almost smiled. Felix did not bother hiding it. Lucan stood between 2 bureau officers with his wrists bound. Even he looked surprised. Future Mason faced the crystal. "This is not a threat. It is a result I confirmed 37 times. If the Academy survives, its 5 fractures carry the debt of every return toward the capital. At noon, the debts join. 83,417 people disappear." "Why does killing the Academy stop it?" I asked. His glowing eye moved toward the dormitories. 1,200 fresh deaths fill the fractures before they reach the capital. The door closes. The square outside became silent. He had reduced the choice to 2 groups. 1,200 people here, more than 83,000 there. Lucan stepped forward. "You see, Mason, this is the calculation I tried to show you." Future Mason looked at him. "You caused the final hour." Lucan stopped. Every public crystal carried Future Mason's next words. "In my timeline, Director Lucan forced 312 authorized returns. He used each one to test a different defense for the capital. Every return created another fracture. When the Bureau understood the damage, it erased the records and blamed my class. The crowd turned toward Lucan. He pulled against the officers. "That future does not exist yet. It exists on my skin." Future Mason raised his arms. Hundreds of pale marks covered them. "You offered 100 gold per death," he continued. "By the end, the Bureau owed me more than 30,000 gold, and the world owed me 312 funerals." Lucan's own officers moved him farther from the Black Seal. The city notice boards changed. His portrait vanished from the Bureau command page. A red investigation mark replaced it. The man who had arrived with 12 officers now needed them to protect him from the crowd. Future Mason did not enjoy the reaction. He looked tired. "Lucan was wrong," he said. "The sacrifice is still necessary." We had 57 minutes before the fractures joined. Nadia ordered the remaining students into the western shelters. Felix and Evo checked the gates. Finn prepared healing stones. Cora pulled both versions of me toward the kitchen table. "Sit." Future Mason stared at her. "We do not have time. You crossed 11 years to tell us to die. You have time for bread." She placed the remaining sandwiches in the pan. Butter hissed. Cheese softened between slices of toasted bread. Nadia poured thick tomato soup into 6 cups. Pepper and basil rose with the steam. I looked at the soup. Cora moved my cup away and replaced it with apple tea. "Professional disagreement?" she said. Future Mason laughed. It was a quiet, damaged sound. He sat. For several minutes we ate while 5 temporal fractures moved beneath the academy. The bread was crisp again, the cheese stretched when I pulled it apart. Smoked ham tasted of salt and wood. The apple tea was sweet, hot, and normal. Future Mason held his sandwich without eating. Cora died before learning this recipe in my first timeline, he said. Then your timeline had poor food, she replied. He finally took a bite, his eye closed. I understood why he had crossed time. He was not trying to kill strangers. He was trying to stop remembering them. What was your first save point? I asked. The Capitol Clock Tower. Astra placed it there after the Academy fell. You never moved it? I moved it hundreds of times. The final anchor remained beneath the clock tower because every final hour began there. And we share one soul. He stopped chewing. The rule of my class was simple. Only one save point could exist, not 1 point for each body, 1 point for one soul. Future Mason understood my thought. Do not try it. If I establish a new point, yours disappears. My anchor holds 341 returns. Destroying it may open every fracture at once, or close the passage that brought them here. I tested that. No, you tested it while your version of me was already dead. For the first time, he had no immediate answer. Every clock in the kitchen stopped. Astra appeared beside the stove. She wore the same white robe threaded with stars. She looked at the 2 versions of me, then at the dirty dishes. Mason collected himself. She said, "Is this the best time for that joke?" I asked. "It is the final available time." Future Mason stood. His face had become pale. You stopped appearing after my 100th return. You stopped listening after your 99th? Astra touched the pale ring in the kitchen wall. There has never been more than one anchor. Your future body stretched the same anchor across 11 years. Establishing a point inside the central fracture will overwrite the capital point. Future Mason looked at her. What happens to me? You become mortal. The word seemed heavier than every number he had spoken. Astra continued, The future passage will reject you. You may return through it before it closes. You may not come back. And the final hour? The return debt belongs to the traveler. If he leaves before the passage is cut, he carries it away. If he remains, the debt enters this timeline. There was the third path. Future Mason could return through the door. I could destroy it after him. The Academy and Capital could both survive. He shook his head. The central fracture is beneath the clock tower. Temporal guardians already surround it. If Mason dies while placing the point, the 11th return begins the final hour immediately. Astra faced me. Then do not die. The clocks started. She vanished. The western wall exploded. White light crossed the academy. 5 fractures opened together. Creatures climbed from hours that had never happened. The public crystals remained inactive. Everyone watched. Future Mason drew a broken black sword. I cannot let you gamble 2 cities. His attributes appeared on the Academy board. They showed strength 428, agility 401, endurance 512, and mana 630. My strength was 18. My agility was 14. For the first time, I understood how the Iron Rat had felt. Future Mason moved. I saw nothing. The silver mantle broke before I felt the strike. I crossed the kitchen, broke the table, and stopped against the wall. Cora threw a slowing field. Future Mason walked through it. Nadia blocked his sword, her shield folded. He caught her before she hit the floor and placed her beside the stove. He did not want to kill us. That was his weakness. Nadia, I said, make the plan without telling me. Future Mason knew everything I remembered. Any plan I created might already exist in his past. He could not remember Nadia's new decision. She understood. Felix, coin pattern, Cora, broken clock, Finn, wait for my shield. I did not know what those orders meant. Neither did Future Mason. Felix threw 3 coins into the air. Fire struck only at the coins showing the Academy crest. Random flames crossed the room. Future Mason avoided them. But Cora's broken clock changed which flame arrived first. Nadia threw her ruined shield at Finn. Finn filled it with healing light. The bent metal reflected a white beam into Future Mason's glowing eye. He raised one arm. I ran. He caught my coat. Cora stepped close and slapped him again. His head turned from surprise, not force. "You did not remember that one," she said. I left the coat in his hand and reached the corridor. The city reacted through the crystals. Thousands of voices shouted my name. Students in the shelter struck the walls in rhythm. Future Mason followed. Temporal guardians filled the courtyard. One wore armor made from clock faces. Another carried a spear that aged everything it touched. A third had 6 arms, each moving at a different speed. Nadia's team met them behind me. Felix burned the clock armor. Givo trapped the spear beneath his shield. Finn kept everyone standing. Cora marked the seconds where each guardian became solid. I killed the first with my temporal knife. My strength increased by 2. The second fell beneath Nadia's broken shield. My agility increased by 2 when I cut its spear. The 6-armed guardian blocked the tower door. Future Mason arrived behind us. "Stop!" Nobody did. Felix used the last of his mana to fill the courtyard with harmless flame. The guardian's 6 arms protected its eyes. I passed beneath them. My knife found its core. Endurance increased by 2, mana increased by 3. We entered the tower. Future Mason caught us on the first stair. He knocked Ivo aside. He broke Nadia's sword with 2 fingers. He touched Finn's staff and removed every healing spell from it. Then Cora stood in his path. Hundreds of dead echoes filled the stairs behind her. Not only Cora, every student erased in his 341 returns stood there. Future Mason could see them. His sword lowered. "I saved as many as I could." The echoes did not accuse him. They only watched. Cora held out her hand. "Let this version save you." His glowing eye dimmed. He stepped aside. We reached the chamber beneath the clock tower. 5 fractures met above a black pit. White lightning struck the stone. The future passage stood in the center like an open door filled with ash. The capital appeared beyond it. Its clock tower burned beneath a white sky. The voice warned that an 11th return would begin the final hour. I approached the pit. The pressure broke the skin on my hands. My endurance rose from 17 to 19 as I held the edge. My mana increased from 15 to 17 when resonance sense connected with the anchor. I pressed my palm to the central stone. The system asked whether I wished to overwrite the save point beneath the future capital. Future Mason stopped behind me. For 341 returns, that point had pulled him back from death. I answered yes. The capital anchor vanished. Pale light entered the central stone. My single save point was established at 3:33 in the morning. Future Mason's glowing eye became dark. His enormous attributes disappeared from the public board. For the first time in 11 years, he had no place to return. The future passage began pulling him backward. Lucan entered the chamber. He had escaped his officers and recovered the black seal. "Bind!" he ordered. The seal sent chains toward Future Mason. The dead echoes caught them. Hundreds of erased hands pulled once. The black seal flew from Lucan's grip and fell into the pit. The passage dragged him after it. Nadia caught the back of his uniform. For one moment, Lucan hung above the fracture he had created. Every public crystal showed his face. "Help me," he said. I pulled him up. He collapsed on the floor. "Why?" he asked. "Because I do not solve problems by feeding people to holes." The officers reached the chamber and took him. Future Mason stood at the door. The ash pulled at his armor. "If I cross, that future ends. That is the plan. I will die there." Once, he looked at Cora. She had tears on her face, but did not look away. Then he looked at me. "Do not chase a perfect timeline. It does not exist. I only need one where we are alive. That is what I said at the beginning." He smiled. "Try to stop before 300. Future Mason stepped through the door. All 341 return marks followed him. The future capital disappeared. The passage began to close. 5 temporal chains held it open. Our final battle was against the debt itself. Nadia cut the first chain with her broken sword. Felix melted the second. Cora reversed the third until it had never formed. Evo and Finn tore the fourth from the stone. I used the temporal knife on the last. Knife handling rose from 5 to 6. The chain broke. The door closed on the white sky. Silence filled the chamber. Across the city, every broken clock started again. The prediction above the capital vanished. Expected deaths at noon fell from 83,417 to 0. The Academy Survival Board showed 1,200 alive. The square erupted. People laughed, cried, and shouted into the public crystals. Students left the shelters and filled the courtyard. The sound reached us beneath the tower. My final attributes appeared as Strength 20, Agility 16, Endurance 19, Mana 17, Knife Handling 6, and a return count of 10. No 11th return followed. The capital awarded 200 gold for preventing the final hour. My total became 318 gold, 92 silver, and 3 copper. The Academy confirmed my rank as first and appointed me captain of a new temporal response team. Nadia remained our field commander because she had more sense than all of us together. Director Lucan lost his office before sunrise. His confession and the future testimony played across every capital board. Grant and Lucan faced public trial for the illegal experiments. Felix received 3 months of maintenance duty for the training hall sabotage. I gave him my old grey coat. The bucket smell had survived. 1 week later, the West Room no longer leaked. The Academy repaired it and added a second chair. Cora claimed the new chair before I could use it, and Nadia brought roasted beef. Finn carried potatoes with cream and herbs. Evo arrived with 3 loaves of dark bread. Felix brought a fruit pie and refused to explain where he bought it. We ate around a table that barely fit. The beef was tender and dark at the edges. Gravy soaked into the potatoes. The bread cracked beneath my fingers. The pie smelled of apples, cinnamon, and warm sugar. Nobody discussed dying until dessert. Cora touched my hand. "Do you still have a save point?" "Beneath the clock tower. That is a terrible place for dinner." I looked around the room, at Nadia arguing with Felix, at Finn hiding the final piece of pie from Evo, at the dry ceiling, at Cora beside me. I touched the table. The voice asked whether I wished to replace my single save point. I agreed. Pale light entered the wood. My save point was established in the repaired West Room after dinner, with every chair occupied. Cora leaned closer and kissed my cheek. "Try returning through the door next time. It sounds less painful." For the first time I had saved a place because I wanted to come back alive.